Welcome to the UKOCR Community Podcast, presented by Obstacle Racing Media. Each episode, we'll be talking to race directors, elite runners, weekend warriors, and frankly, anyone else from the UKOCR scene that will talk to us. Here is your host, Alan, aka Muddy Duck.
Anywhere in Chicken Town. The bloody scene is bloody sad. The bloody news is bloody bad.
Greetings, friends, acquaintances, and anyone else who just happens to be listening. Welcome to a special, and I say special, edition of the UKOCR podcast with me and James Burton. Back fresh from WTM. If you watch WTM, World's Toughest Mudder, you will know where he was, what he was doing out there, how well he was doing, and then he dropped off. So there's a bit of a story behind this. So I wanted to get this story. I wanted to get this story straight from James. I wanted to find out what happened, what he thought of World's Toughest Mudder, and I thought, let's do a special. We've done World's Toughest Mudder with some of the athletes that was out there, got their stories, which is another podcast which you can find. But we thought, I want to get James' story on what happened to him. So here's me and James. Hope you all enjoy what you're doing this weekend, and that you take care, you stay safe. Speak to you soon.
James Burton, fresh back from the US of A in your little office, which I always like. How are you, my
Alan?
friend?
I'm good. How are we doing? I don't know if I'm fresh, but I'm back.
Have we got jet lag?
I think I've got rid of the jet lag now. I got back on Tuesday morning, and yeah, it was a struggle this week. I think jet lag and recovery kind of together, taking its toll. But I feel like I'm back in the game, just about.
And as we record this on Saturday, am I going to see you tomorrow at the 3Ks? Are you running, or are you just going to relax?
Yes. Well, I text Lindsay pretty much straight after World's Toughest Mudder and said, I think I'll just TO tomorrow at the 3K. So I'm going to be a technical official. Important to be
fantastic.
there and support. So yeah, I'll be there. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a really great event. So
yeah, me
Dave
too.
and Forder's team done an epic amount of work. So excited to see it all come together. Yeah.
OCR in the UK is moving forward, but I guess that's for another podcast, because I brought you on today to talk about your race.
Yes.
At WTM, because I was watching. I was one of these people that was watching the results all the way through. I was watching live on you. I got my iPad at one side, watching the live feed from OCR report, and then I got my phone at the other side of me, and I was flicking through the results. And you were there at the bouts for a long time. Let's start. How soon before the race did you get over there? So was it days?
So
months?
I got there on the Tuesday. And that was tactical. I do struggle going to the US with jet lag, so I wanted to give myself as much time as possible to get set up. So I got there on the Tuesday, was in Dallas a couple of days, relaxing, then went to Granbury, and I felt good. I think that worked really well from a strategy perspective. I didn't have any jet lag by the Saturday.
Yeah,
it was good to go. I was waking up kind of 6:37, but that's fine. Yeah, so. Good start to the preparations, at least.
Did you get a few training runs in Dallas?
Just one on the Wednesday. I had a little run, like a tourist run around Dallas.
Yeah.
Went to the JFK kind of assassination point, which is a very strange place. There's like an X on the road where he was assassinated. It was very surreal. So I went there, ran around. I did actually manage to trip up on my training run. Not too much damage, but scratch my arm. But yeah, no, I had a training run, and just on the Friday, just had a little bit of a jog around the actual site, looking at the obstacles. Nothing too crazy. Again, I put all the prep in. It was just about keeping loose and being ready to go.
Yeah, feeling confident, I guess, then on the start line.
I was feeling confident. It was actually, I've done over 200 obstacle races, and I don't tend to get nervous now. But actually, because it was the A race, because it was going into the unknown of 24 hours, World's Toughest Mudder, I actually felt a little bit nervous. It was excited nerves, but it was definitely nerves. But I was there. We got set up, and good to go, really. I think you have to, for World's Toughest Mudder, they get you into the start chute really early, which I struggle with. Because even though I don't really get nerves, I still get nervous wheeze. So I had to, even when we were in the start chute 40 minutes earlier, I had to nip out for a wee. Yeah, no, it was good. I was all set up and ready to go. As I say, nervous but in an excited way. The atmosphere was incredible. Like,
Mike Bussard was in pit crew for
Mike was my pit, and actually Charlie Pavin. I didn't realize, like, I didn't ask her. She just very kindly was there and available, and she kind of got involved. Said, "Oh, if Mike's not around, I'll help." But she was there every single lap I came in with Mike. It was amazing. So I had an amazing pit crew, which is one of the reasons I got as far as I did, to be honest, because they just kept me going. And you know, when you've got people helping you and staying awake for your race, that really does put the pressure on you to keep going. So no, it was good. Amazing work from both of them.
So early doors, you were there and thereabouts. That first lap, did you try and keep up with the leaders? Because you went out quite hot, 38 minutes first lap. You know,
yeah, it was an interesting one. That's probably something I've been trying to assess post race. So I was very comfortable in my running. I wasn't pushing, but I was in third, second or third or fourth on the first lap, and I was a bit like, have I gone out too fast? Because I knew there were some good fast runners behind me. I'd much rather have been lower and kind of built my way up. But as I say, I wasn't pushing. I was kind of fast walking the hills, and it was just a comfortable pace. And to be honest, that was my strategy for the beginning of the race. Just be comfortable, don't push it, enjoy yourself. And I was feeling good. Yeah.
When obstacles open, what was the first obstacle you came across?
The first one I was just Dublin walls. So I did a full lap and I missed Snogging Dirt, which was Kiss and Mud, on the second lap, which was good. And then Dublin walls. That was actually one, it was only a short amount, but I tried to sprint to get past that. It was only about 500 meters. That was probably a bit silly because Dublin walls takes about 5 seconds to get over. Whereas if it was like a Snogging Dirt or a longer obstacle, probably it was a bit more from a strategy perspective, make a bit sense. But there was no reason to exert myself there because I didn't make it either. I still had to go over
it. Did you know that it was open? What warning did they give you? Was there someone shouting 10 seconds?
No, I just so Tough Mudder communicated what opens when.
Yeah.
And then Mike and Charlie were also telling me what was open on the next lap. So I was conscious of that. I did forget on my third lap, and I had to do Devil's Beard when even if I just gone very slightly faster, I would have beat it. So there is a bit of tactics there on obstacles that are a bit slower. Going to take you a minute or two to try and miss them on a lap, because from 1 o'clock to 10 o'clock every hour, a different obstacle opened. But yeah, no, it was good. I was feeling very comfortable with the obstacles. As the technical obstacles were opening, I was very comfortable with them and making good time.
Make an excellent time. I think I've got the stats up here. You even did lap 6 in under an hour. It wasn't until lap 7 you did in 1 hour, 1 minute. You know what I mean? It was, so you covered the first 30 miles in under 6 hours, looking really, really strong, looking really, really good. To this point, were you feeling good at this point? Were you still feeling good?
I was feeling good probably up until 50 miles. I was just comfortable. There were people that were kind of catching me up, but not anything crazy. I think I was in the top 10 up until 50 miles and was feeling strong. I was confident. I was like, okay, how am I going to get to this 100 miles? And there'd been a discussion that how many miles you got to at 10 miles is normally double what you can achieve overall. So I was on target at 10 hours in. I was on target for 100 miles, which was the goal and the dream. And I think at that point I was still hitting all the obstacles, smashing them, no penalties. I had to use, so you get the bands after 25 miles every lap.
Yeah,
I had to use those on Grappler a couple of times because the queues were so big. That was one a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. So they were so deep, I didn't feel, even though I was a registered elite, push into the front because it was like 6 or 7 people deep. So I could either wait, and it would probably have been a 10-20 minute wait to have a go, or I could do the penalty, which was ridiculous. It was like 0.6, 0.7 miles. So on those ones, each lap I was using a band up, which is a bit annoying because I know I could do the grappler, but it was like, I'm not going to waste time and just get on with it essentially. But I was trying to keep some bands back as well.
Looking back at that, when I spoke to Grant Thompson, he said he used his on the mud mile. The barbed wire crawl through the mud mile.
Oh, that's a bit crazy. That was quite short.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't have done that.
He felt it was quite long. He felt it was quite long, and he wanted to stay clean, ready for the obstacle afterwards.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that. But yeah, I did hear people giving up. And I was like, oh, that's a surprise. I thought it was quite quick. You just rolled through, and
right.
It was actually placement wise. What you didn't get cold quick, which was quite nice. So when you went out, there was that which was a bit wet, but it was actually only the end of the course that had a lot of the water, unless you were falling in at obstacles. But well clung at the start. I was doing, apart from my last lap, twinkle toes, which a lot of people were failing the balance. I'm quite good with balance, so I was doing that every lap, apart from my last lap, which we'll talk about that lap in a bit. But out of 10 hours, and then probably my next lap was okay. But that's where it started to turn. I did start to lose quite a bit of energy, 11, 12. So I was still getting round, I was still moving, but I wasn't moving as fast for sure. And I was also starting to fail some of the technical obstacles, just from an energy strength perspective, which is a bit frustrating because I was doing them before, but like Funky Monkey, or Spunky Monkey it was called, Swinging Tips. Those obstacles on, I think, 11 and 12, I was failing, which was frustrating because I've done them before, which is a big learning for me in terms of grip endurance. You can have all the grip in the world, the grip strength, but if your endurance isn't there, you're not going to be able to go lap after lap. So something for me to think about in terms of my nutrition and also just that grip endurance training, that because the benefit of completing obstacle after obstacle was profound in this race because the penalties were so hard. If you were completing every obstacle, you were smashing it and making such good time. It was world's toughest mud, but definitely world's toughest penalties as well. Like nothing I've ever experienced in terms of the length and the time it took.
And I'm getting that feedback as well, that this was a proper race. This has been a proper race, that if you wanted to not do an obstacle, you were going to fail it, then the penalties were, I guess, what we've all been shouting for. We've all been shouting for this for a long time, that if you can't do the obstacle, make the penalties tough.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done at this one. It's made it super tough.
Yeah, they've got Let's go on. Sorry.
Go on. No, I was going to say, go to penalties. Let's talk penalties first.
Yeah, it's tricky because I think they've got a real balance because they want to make the distance hard. They don't want to get the elites going and get 120, 125 miles. So they need to do that in the penalties. I think that's kind of how they structured it. The penalties really pushed. So if you failed, you couldn't just be a great ultra runner and do well, essentially, which is what it should be. So they were tough, and there was some challenges within it as well. You were having to do a run, and then you were smashing a stake into the ground to a certain point, and then only when it got to a certain point could you run on. You're having to take mud, almost like a mini bucket carry, and doing that around the course. So all the penalties were taking at least 4 minutes, if not longer. As I say, the one at Grappler, which I had to do once, which took about 10, 15 minutes. It was a long penalty.
What was that penalty?
That was a run penalty from the Grappler.
Yeah.
And then also you went for a stream as well. So about 0.6, 0.7 miles. It was some serious distance.
From one or two of the penalties I heard, there was a little bit of streams involved. Was it the one where you had to go and pick up the dime or the nickel out of a bucket? You had to run somewhere.
There was a bit of a
stream
stream there.
A stream for that, yeah.
I only did that one once. That was hanging rough, which I was able to do. I was able to do most laps. Towards the end, I couldn't, just the grip again, which was again annoying because it was such a short obstacle. And once I even got all the way to the end and then missed the bell, and then my grip had gone, and I couldn't get it. But
what was the first obstacle you failed then?
The first obstacle I failed, I think it was actually just the tip. Right. I think it was either lap 11 or 12, and I actually managed to do it later. So I think it was definitely a bit of an energy nutrition thing, because it was a relatively straightforward, and I just couldn't grip. There was an element of it. They got quite wet and muddy, but still you should be able to do it. But I couldn't grip the poles in the middle, and I was slipping off, and I was getting so frustrated. I was like, okay, all right, my energy's gone here. I'm going to have to adapt, and so I just had to go and do the penalty. But after that point, I did get a bit of energy on my 13th lap and was completing some that was failing. the hanging obstacles were becoming very tough, and I was having to either, if I had a band, use a band or take the penalty at that point.
I understand they were getting quite slippery as well. Like Spunky Monkey got quite slippery because the rope got wet. And
that's it. When I was going up the rope, I was getting to the top, and there was a bit of dry bit, so I was trying to desperately dry my hands on that. But they were quite thick, chunky monkey bars, so you really had to hold on, and that's where the grip endurance is important, because if earlier in the race you can really do that extra grip to hold on, but as you're getting tired, it's much harder. It was good. I think. Did they get the technical level right? It was probably slightly too hard, but at the end of the day, if you don't do it, you have to do the penalty. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So
it's the world's toughest mudder. It's the toughest race.
Exactly.
You just mentioned
the obstacles.
Yeah, but you would. I mean, you are very obstacle proficient, aren't you? Yeah. If there's one of the things out there, you are probably one of the most obstacle proficient people out there.
Yeah, and I think the variety is what's great about toughest mudder. Like, my core was so tired after the race from all the crawling as well. So some great obstacles like that. There was one called trench press, where you had to crawl under like deep barbed wire pit, and then you went into like a blacked out box, which was again low to the ground, and then there was actually a board at the end. It was really tight squeeze to come out, almost like Shawshank style. You came out at the end into the water. That was great. So they kind of twisted all the obstacles. Melting pot with the ice that you're going up a tube and then falling down into the ice was great. And actually my favorite obstacle was Coach's Corner. I don't know if you've seen that or heard about it, but it was epic. So it's Coach Kyle, who's like the MC out there, playing music all night with another DJ. So that was epic. There was the lights. You come to the top of the hill. It was all going crazy, and it was a real boost to get that music kind of into you at that point. It was about a mile from the finish, maybe slightly less. Yeah. And then you went underneath the DJ booth, crawled through into a tunnel. Then there was like the menthol gas that they have at Tough Mudder, spraying it out into this big box, and you climbed over a cargo net in there. Which was a bit sketchy. It was a bit slippery, but still great. And then you went over the cargo net and then out and crawled out the other side. It was so cool. Like, you could hear when you're in there, you could hear the beat of the music. It was really, really good. I love the fact it had that music element. I love the fact it was an actual obstacle that you had to do as well.
But they do go all out for WTM, where I feel ETM's good. I've done ETM now twice. I love ETM. I think it's great. I'm going back again this year. But I think they need to ramp ETM up, so it's like they ramp WTM up. It needs to be more than just a Tough Mudder. Yeah. And that's what WTM is, isn't it? It's more than just a Tough Mudder.
Yeah, they definitely go all out at WTM, and it's a different experience. What I learned was you shouldn't apply the same strategy that you apply at ETM to WTM. So I think I definitely was using using the bands at certain points to save a bit of time if the obstacle was a bit longer, whereas actually I should have been saving my bands for later in the race when I was more tired and maybe couldn't complete an obstacle. So that's a definitely, because at ETM, all I was doing was using it on mud mile every lap because it was so long. Yeah. And I was completing the obstacle, so it was no dramas. So yeah, definitely worth considering the strategy, 12 hours versus 24. But I'd love to see, as I say, a few more standalone obstacles for ETM or some slightly different twists on the course.
Me too. You touched on 2 minutes ago, lap 11 and 12.
Yeah.
He started to fail. This is when you look at your times individually. This is where, I guess, I'll use the phrase fall off end of a cliff, because you at this moment, you're still running lap 10, 1 hour 29. But then we all of a sudden, with 30 minutes later, 2 hours 1, 2 hours 15, 2 hours 38, it starts to take effect. What were your thoughts over these 3 laps? Were you feeling it? Was you conscious of you dropping down?
Yeah, I was definitely feeling it, but I was like, I've just got to keep going. I'm going to get a second wind, and in a way, I also was changing up, getting the right hit. So obviously starting to slow, so you're starting to get a bit colder. But then on lap 13, I just went full wetsuit. All right, I'm just going to keep grinding this out. Put on the wetsuit, felt snug, went out. And actually, I started to get a bit of a second wind on lap 13. And I was feeling really, really positive. Went round. And then towards the end of that lap, maybe only a mile to go, maybe going after Mudderhorn around that area, my hamstring just completely seized up. And don't know why it did it. Actually, I do know in terms of I've seen my osteopath this week, and essentially I've never pushed myself that far. Furthest I've ever ran, furthest I've ever time-wise. And the hamstring, it's been a bit weak all year, my right hamstring. I've been managing it. It's been fine, but it just said, no, you can't run anymore. So it completely seized up. It wasn't a tear, but it was lots of like, I think obviously when you using your muscles, you tear them like micro tears. That's what they reveal. Yeah. But it was probably a few too many micro tears in the hamstring, and it just literally seized up so it wouldn't move. So from about 1 mile to go on that lap 13, I wasn't even walking. It was slower than a walk. I was hobbling around. Yeah. And I was a bit gutted because, as I say, as I got that second wind, I was starting to complete obstacles again. My energy was back up, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get to 100 here, but I could get to 85, 90. But as soon as that happened, it was game over to an extent. But I got into the pit, and I still felt I could get 2 more laps in and get to 75. The team were great. They kind of patched me up. I had some porridge, got back out. And then pretty much straight away, I realized 2 laps was going to be difficult just with my pace. And I couldn't do literally any obstacles. I couldn't jump. I couldn't go on, even on twinkle toes, my balance. I just couldn't move my leg. So every time I was so you still had to get in the water on well clung, even if you couldn't jump. So it's hard to explain, but it took me about 20 seconds to get to the ground because of the pain in my leg. So I was kind of getting down, and then I'd go into the water, and then I'd kind of gradually pull myself up, but I'd have to extend my legs out almost into a press up position to like work myself up to a standing position because this leg wouldn't bend. And actually at that point, I was only about 500 meters into the course, and I was like, I'm getting cold. I'm moving so slow. I don't think I can do this. And then I started to play around in my mind. Should I go back? Should I quit? And then there was a couple of reasons. Well, one, if I quit at that point, I wouldn't have been an official finisher. So I'd have ran for 17 hours and still not been an official finisher, which would have been quite tough. Then the second thing
that's crazy.
Yeah. Then the second thing was I'd been raising money for Parkinson's UK. My dad suffers from Parkinson's disease, and I'd raised about over £1,000 at that point. So again, it was like, okay, a lot of people have donated for me and Parkinson's UK. I felt really grateful for that support. And then finally, I had Mike and Charlie in the pit who had been awake all day and all night supporting me. If I'm going to get DQ'd, which I effectively would have been DQ'd if I go back, this pretty much I need to get dragged off the course as a medical DQ. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I have 8 hours. I'm going to make this. I know I can make it, even if it's going to take me forever, which it almost did. So I'm just going to hobble around and get around. Honestly, it was kind of one of these weird experiences. It was really rewarding experience. I was chatting to people all the way around. People were helping me. So many people were helping me. But it was so painful. I've never experienced, I guess just being in pain in your leg and trying to go around an obstacle course for 5 hours. Oh, yeah, it was something else. But I got around. I just kind of kept pushing, and I think the only obstacles I completed on that lap were the mandatory ones and operations, the electric obstacle, which was good fun.
Yeah.
That all the others, even the simple ones, I just couldn't do. Just my legs just wouldn't allow me to do it.
Yeah, I once tore it while I was in a gym actually when I tore mine, and it felt like I'd been shot. I think I just collapsed to the floor. So I do know a little bit about the feeling. I don't know if I could have done what you did. I mean,
it wasn't that bad. I didn't feel like, to be fair, I didn't feel like, as I say, it wasn't a full tear, but it just made it immobile. That's what your body does. If it's like you shouldn't be using that muscle anymore, it makes it puts so much pain and like seizes it so much that you can't use it. So I was just having to kind of move myself into different positions. But it's funny when I was speaking to one guy, Pontus, who was, I thought running around his last lap, but he was actually walking around his last lap. It was just I was just so slow. When I saw him go off into the distance in like 30 seconds, it was because I was hobbling and he was walking. That was good. It was good to get everyone's support, and I actually am really proud of myself. I'm a bit gutted I didn't keep going in terms of the distance I wanted, but when you set out to a race, your target is to give everything you can, and then what you get as a result is a result. You put your training in, and then what you put out, and what you get out is what you get out. So I got 70 miles, and now I've just need to decide if I could do it again, essentially. But I was pleased. I am an official finisher of WTM. So if I go back, I go back. But I don't have to go back to complete it because I've completed it, which is good.
No, you are an official finisher. That last lap. To the listeners, to put this into perspective, because not everyone's got the stats in front of them. 4 hours, 56 minutes, 50 seconds for covering 5 miles. And when you look at your first lap, 38, 54, this does put it into perspective. I know you, James. I know that you wouldn't give up and things like that, but that really puts into perspective. I don't know if I could have. I really don't know if I could have done it and stuck out there and hobbled around for 5 miles for 5 hours, because we're talking 1 mile an hour. It
was an interesting pace.
Yeah,
I got quite emotional, actually. I think that must be the first time I've had tears at the finish line. As I was getting up, I was like, oh my God, I've actually got around this. I'm through. I'm in. And just the whole, obviously you're tired, you've been not slept. The whole experience just kind of hit me a bit. It was epic. I'd thoroughly recommend the event and the experience. The community there, everyone's kind of behind you. As Tough Mudder is always a really strong community, but I think WTM then takes it to that next level in terms of that community feel.
Definitely. What did Mike and Charlie think when you came back in after that lap? Because they'd seen you going out and they'd seen you getting a little bit slower, but they weren't expecting you to be out there for that length. What were they?
Well, I think they were
coming down looking.
I don't know specifically on Mike and Charlie. My wife was pleased I was alive because she was messaging, and it was like she was messaging Mike. Is he still out there? I think they were very pleased that I got round. I think they were glad that they pushed me out on that last lap as well. I was going, but I think they made sure I went out. We did talk very briefly about going out for the final lap, but that lap had taken me 5 hours, and I only had 2.5, 3 hours. There's just no way I would have got around another lap. So finished there, and then enjoyed the celebrations, watching everyone come in. That's really nice. People finishing.
Wow, awesome. Well deserved. Well deserved. If someone wants to continue to give you some money towards Parkinson's, how do they do that?
So they can go on my Facebook account or my Instagram. I've got links to Parkinson's UK. We're up to 1,500 now, so I'd love to raise a bit more. Or they can message me. I'll send them a link. And massive thank you again to everyone who's donated. That's gratefully received. And it's nice. So we do all these crazy challenges, don't we? And quite often people will go and do a single Tough Mudder and raise money. And obviously us doing what we do and doing so many races, it's quite difficult to go and ask for donations to do a Tough Mudder. But I thought, okay, I'm already out for World's Toughest Mudder. It feels like an epic battle and an epic challenge. So it felt right to try and raise a bit of money. And I think so it proved as well. And
very much so. Very much so. You alluded earlier on that you've reflected on this. What are your findings? What are you thinking? I know you just said earlier you're not yet know if you're going to go back next year.
Yeah. But, if I go back, I'll be going back. So I actually said I definitely would love to go back. Maybe even just pitting for someone or do a team or just be in there, because the experience and the whole community atmosphere is epic. So I definitely felt, and I said this to Giles, I'd love to go back. If I went back, I'd be definitely focused on 100 miles. I'm not really going to go back to go and get 75 or 80, 100 miles. That was the only bit after the event when I saw those guys getting their green and their orange jackets on. That gave me a bit of motivation. But I think it's that you've got to commit in terms of training. And I did train hard, and I was pleased with my training. But I was also racing in the season as well. Yeah. I think some people can do that, but if I'm going to get to 100, I've got to just put every bit of focus into that. I think I'd need to run 100-mile race as well, at least probably 9 months beforehand, a year beforehand, because I'd need to experience what 100 miles feels in my body, because I think my body was not happy with, although it was only about 30 odd K more than what I did at ETM, my body certainly wasn't happy with the running. To experience that, keep working on nutrition. I never got sick or anything like that. I felt reasonably okay, but the energy did drop, so I need to experiment more with nutrition. The reflection would be, how do I adapt the training and the strategy, which overall I feel I was got about 80% there. But to get to 100, you do have to be 100% there, as cliche as it sounds.
Yeah, you're right. I tried to run 100 once, twice now. I've tried to run 100 miles twice, and I'm up for it again this next weekend.
Oh.
You learn there's different things you learn every time, and I think I don't know anyone who's ever come to me and said that 100-mile ultra in the first attempt at it. Very few people manage it. You've not just going to do your first attempt; you're going to do it at WTM. So straight up 100 miles, 100 miles of obstacles. So hat off to you, and well deserved. I hope we go back next year. I enjoyed so much fun seeing the comments of while you were running, and everyone in the UK was following you. It was amazing.
No, great. No, thanks for the support. I did see a lot of comments and things, so I do appreciate it. And I think whatever your goal is, and massive shout out to all of the Team UK out there. Everyone smashed it. Had some great numbers as well and milestones. And that was epic. Just seeing the Team UK as you're going around and supporting each other. But whatever your milestones is, I think that's what makes it so great as well. That challenge. Everyone's got their own goals and their own motivation. But you definitely, the more you can put into the training for something like this, it's not to be underestimated. I don't think I did. But even then, it was more than what I was expecting. For sure. So no, really, really, really need to make a decision, because it's a big commitment, isn't it? That's the thing. It's like you're committing your season. But we'll see. Harsha, my wife's a bit like, maybe don't do this. You do enough already, James. You've done it once.
Maybe the whole idea is to get Harsha to go out there and see if she can get round 50.
That's it. Harsha's an excellent ultra runner. I think she's actually, obviously we've got different speeds, but actually in terms of her competency, she's done a couple of double ultras already. She's a strong ultra runner. I think she's just great. Keeps going, very consistent pace. I think she's actually could get 50 quite easily. Maybe that's the thing. Exactly. I'll be happy. You got the good sell of Florida now as well, haven't you? And potentially a bit of Disney while you're out there. So
yeah, that's the secret. James, thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. As always, I always give everyone an opportunity to give a shout out to whenever they want to. We've mentioned Parkinson's, but mention it again if you want to. So
again, if anyone would like to donate to Parkinson's UK, that'd be massive and greatly received. I do actually want to give a quick shout out to the people that supported me as well, if that's okay. So Veloforte Nutrition and Enduro Sport Nutrition, they were absolutely fantastic, both completely natural energy products. Got Lotus Wellbeing Clinic. Cam's my osteopath, she's amazing and literally has kept me going all season. So managed to get me through WTM just about. And then Nuclear Phoenix and Serpes Running Club. They keep me going fast as I can as well. So massive shout out to all of them.
Thank you, James. Great chatting to you.
Thank you, Alan. Awesome. See you next year, eh?